I think our military would be right beside us, leading the charge.
I agree with you completely. I think one of the real problems in between is the militarizing of law enforcement. It's a terrible idea, and it's putting these offices in the middle, and that's not where they should be. And they're being federalized. And if federal government tells them to go out and collect all people with green eyes, they either do that or they lose their job. And there's not going to be many good jobs around. So if they go and do that, they are not going to be successful. And so they should be made aware of the fact that they're going to have to make a choice. And if they make the wrong choice, it could be a terminal one.
I hear you. I hear you. Woo. Folks, I tell you what, this is some dynamite stuff that I wasn't ready for. I'll tell you what, we got a break coming up here in about 30 seconds. Let old Ed sit back here, kind of get his mind out of his rear and see if he can think of something, because I am just taken back on this. You guys need to call in and ask Bob your questions about this. I'll tell you something, it's mind-boggling or mind-blowing. But we're going to be back here in a few minutes, and I want all of you to call in and ask Bob some questions, because I am, for the first time in a long time, I am lost for words. And we'll be right back after this break, y'all. Well, we are back here in the Lion's Den. Ed's sitting here scratching his head. He don't know what to do. Bob, you still with me?
I certainly am.
Well, I'll tell you what. You're talking about these concentration camps and everything else. Elaborate on how you came to this conclusion, would you please?
I do a lot of research. I handle over 350 pieces of research a day in 5 languages. I probably answer over 100 on average emails a day. I probably make about 8 telephone calls a day, and I have been studying these areas for over 50 years, and so I got a lot of time engraved.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we got Hal on the line. Hal, welcome to the Lion's Den. You're on the air with Ed, Karen, and Bob. What's your question for Bob?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment on the revelation that you just evidently just became aware of. It is pretty frightening, the Illuminati. And I found out about this here about 3 months ago through Alex Jones, and I didn't want to believe it. And the more I read, as much as I just absolutely didn't want to believe it, this gentleman tonight, Bob Chapman, he's confirmed what I believe, didn't want to believe, I should say.
Well,
when you were talking about the American troops not wanting to go against the Americans, that's absolutely true. But what I heard on Alex Jones here last week, he said the government, our shadow government, hiring all these bad actors, all the rogue fighters from all over the world, and which could care less. I mean, they'll bring them into the United States into this militia, and they won't think twice firing. So that's really scary.
Well, as you might know, I'm on Alex Jones' show every week, and many others, so there has been a lot of talk about that, and that's good, because it allows people to find out about things that they didn't know about before. And it's a revelation. The diabolical nature of what these people are involved in is anathema to the average decent mind that can't believe that people can be that evil to do these things. Well, I get news for you. They are that evil. And just a wonderful example is what you're seeing in the scandals that have been brought about just recently, never mind in the past, of Ponzi schemes at Citigroup and this man named Madoff and many others, and the tremendous amount of money, some $9.4 trillion, that's already been expended, most of which went to banks to keep them from, and brokerage houses, keep them from going under. And it was one insurance company as well, AIG. And, you know, people don't know what they're doing. When the Federal Reserve was asked, well, who got the $2 trillion and what were the terms? They were asked by a federal judge, and they told them to fly a kite. I mean, that's the kind of government we've got left in America. It is what they say it is. There is no law. There is no Constitution. And you heard the comments by George Bush in relation to Constitution, that such and such piece of paper, and that's not what he said, but it was far worse than that. And this is the attitude of these people. And they're going to continue to do what they want to do until we stop them. And I can promise you something. We are going to stop them.
Well, I believe that. The Clintons are also part of it, too. But, as well as many others. And, you know, all the talk show hosts that we've had a lot of confidence, I say we, the conservatives, when we listen to the Hannitys and the Lanfears and the Limbaughs. And we can't understand why they evade the obvious. It's because they know all this. They know it to be true. But they're in an element, this is my personal opinion, they make so much money. I mean, Limbaugh makes $50 million a year plus with the syndicated radio show. And they're all multimillionaires, and they're fat cats. You talk about losing touch with American people, I believe these guys have, and they're not telling the truth anymore. And
well, they never did from the beginning, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do what they were doing.
Yeah,
you can't make $50 million a year and be telling the people the truth.
Yeah, you're either with them or you're against them, and obviously they're with them. So we're becoming a society of the absolute haves and have-nots, and it's going to get ugly before it gets better. But I'm with you though. I'm 64 years old and looking forward to a pleasant retirement here, and this is scaring the living hell out of me, and it should. But anyway.
Well, unfortunately, you're correct, and it is that way, and more people are going to find out because what you're seeing within our economic and financial structure has been done deliberately.
And something to learn that.
Okay, we thank you for that call.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ed.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Okay, let's go down to Dan on line 4. Dan, are you still there?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What's your question for Bob or comment?
Oh, yes, I'm well aware of the Illuminati. I listen to Coast and Alex Jones and Stephen Quayle. I'm sure he's heard of them. And anyway, I'm really for you guys, and just keep it up. And I was also wondering about if, say, if I had a percentage to invest in gold, what would he recommend?
Well, as I said earlier in the program, that's very difficult to say because it's a personal thing, and everybody's different. And I really got to talk to them, but I said earlier that I think 50% of your assets in gold is certainly a minimum. But there are other things you got to take care of first, and that is putting your own house in order, getting rid of your debt, and so on and so forth, which I've gone into earlier.
Right.
And once you've got it together, then you can invest in gold and silver coins or shares. But I believe it's going to be the only way to go.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, thank you for that call, caller. I'll tell you what, I'm still sitting here in kind of non-belief. All right, let's do a scenario. When do you think that there's a possibility of this happening? And take a step by step on what you think is going to happen.
Well, the Federal Reserve has been increasing money and credit for 5 years. The other major central banks have been doing it for about 4.5 years. And the increases have averaged about 14%. I just noticed yesterday that England's increase is 16.3%, which is very high for them. And they've been using that increase in money and credit to offset the debasement of assets, which is the deflationary aspect of what's going on within society. And that most certainly is borne out most in watching the residential real estate market drop. We saw the same thing with the dot-com market of the late 1990s, and we've just recently seen it again, too, in the stock market, on the Dow basis falling from about 14,100 to 7,600. And so the elements are there, the underlying deflation being offset by inflation, and that will continue probably for 2 or 3 more years, maybe even longer. And sooner or later the system will fall apart, and it'll probably be accompanied by another major war. And incidentally, I predicted a 9/11 type of event the November before it happened in order to get us involved in the invasion and occupation of Iraq.
Okay. Okay, let's see. We got a caller here. Let me see. Caller, you on the air with Ed, Karen, and Bob. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is Pastor Charlie from Florida.
Okay, what's your question for Bob?
All right, Bob, there's a saying in the Bible which I think we all need to know, and that is, you cannot serve God and mammon, for you either will love one or hate the other. I think it's so important in America today that we rely on prayer. The other gentleman that was on the other night about spirits, I kept thinking about the Great Spirit, the great Indian spirit that we all look toward in our lives. So, sir, but I'd like to have your response for